Afternoon, James. Thank you for coming on the True Conversation podcast. Awesome to have you on.
Hey, Tom. Pleasure to be here, mate. Good to catch up.
Yeah, really good, mate. So, let's get straight into it. When I think of business development, I think of you, to be honest. Like, we've known each other a while now. I know you've helped teams build out BD processes before, etc. You've been in this world quite a long time. It's obviously changing quite a lot, but give us a bit of an overview of yourself and your role and how you ended up doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, of course. So I guess now spent 12 years, or best part of 12 years in like sort of helping people build BDR teams and AE teams. But like where I started was, used to be in like hospitality and managed a restaurant and stuff. And that was all stressful. Went to a sales job in an office, and it was at an SDR agency. And so like for 8 years there, I learned to build high performing SDR teams, specifically in like IT and tech industries. I think I built 9 different outbound SDR teams whilst I was there. Opened at the US office and built the first team that we had over there. And like through that, you see thousands of SDRs, trained hundreds myself. And like, I guess what we started to see in the last 5 or 6 years was this like growth or this explosion of sales tools, right? And with the exposure I had to all our different clients, me building different teams for them, working on different campaigns myself with those clients, like I started to see just more and more breakage and frustration and this like idea that outbound is really hard or is getting harder. And I'm not sure that's necessarily true. I think we've created an environment that is messier and more complex because of that mess, but the fundamentals are still the same. So that's why we built Stacky out of those frustrations that I had to help people solve and make sense of the sales tech market. Because if you can do that and you can simplify and give people the right process back, and they can build the foundations, and leadership actually get to coach and manage, and salespeople actually get to speak to prospects rather than switch tabs, and we can start to solve all those issues.
Amazing. So yeah, I think that's really good point there in terms of like the tooling then. So do you think that obviously you can get too caught up in the tech then as
Yeah.
it's developing nowadays, or automation, there's obviously thousands of different tools you can buy,
Yeah.
but the fundamentals are still the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The number of times we go and like talk to customers, and we talk to like VPs of sales, or we talk to co-founders and SDR directors, and we hear outbound is really hard these days, or like outbound doesn't work anymore. Like you can't say that and like really believe that's 100%, because you know for a fact there are other companies that are doing it well. So what's broken or what's hard is that you've probably just not spent enough time getting good fundamentals and good foundations in place for your team. So, how to objection handle, how to pick up the phone, structure a conversation, create follow-up, and how to have that all tracked.
Cool. So yeah, obviously what you're saying, James, is there's so many tools out there nowadays in terms of AI, automation, loads of different tools you can buy. And we have it all the time. You're speaking to these sales leaders, VPs of sales, and they want to buy the next tool to solve the problem. But what you're saying is that although that's important, you need to start thinking of the fundamentals that actually get you the right results.
Yeah, absolutely. People love to say that, sales tech, outbound doesn't work, or cold calling doesn't work, or email doesn't work. But like, it's categorically wrong, because there are other businesses that are succeeding at it. So really what people normally, when they say that, what I'm normally thinking is like, okay, so is it like an internal training problem, internal like understanding, like CRM structure? Are the team like any good on the phones? Do they just like not have the right call structure? They've spent 6 months, we've all seen this, I know, like in tech companies that you've probably seen and worked with, like 6 months of product training before they even learn how to like structure a phone call, stuff like that. So you have to fix the fundamentals. And whilst at Stacky we do advise on tech stack and the processes, our goal is always to simplify and usually peel people's tech stack back first, so that the teams can actually get better coaching on the fundamentals, get their time back, get their focus back, so that they build good habits and they build confidence in those fundamentals. Because without that, you're never going to have a good process. You're never going to be able to scale. Yeah.
Do you find that sometimes that step gets missed? So people, they go and buy a latest tool, but they haven't got those fundamental building blocks below that are actually going to get the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a key example of this is, I did a webinar last year it was actually around dial infrastructure and connection rates. And I asked, this was a group of like senior SDR and sales directors, people who had big teams, they've been in the industry for a long time. And I asked them, beyond booking a meeting, what other good outcomes are your team monitoring for in their calls? And a good half of the audience were, I didn't quite understand. Like, okay, let me ask it another way. Are you tracking all of the follow-ups? And are you going back to people that didn't take a meeting initially? And like an even bigger section of the room didn't seem to understand that concept. And like that, for me, is like one of the basic like fundamentals, because if you don't understand that, all you're doing is you're scraping and shooting for that 3% that are in the market at any one time, but you're just doing that with like no previous knowledge every single week. And so you have to set up the CRM in the right way. You have to understand call structure and follow up. But people will go and buy instantly, and they'll fire lots and lots of emails out, or they'll buy LinkedIn automation tool and start firing lots out. The results they start getting from that, without any of that like follow up stuff I've just explained, they'll think that is those are their metrics. And so then the same goes for an SDR. If you have an SDR, our SDRs book 6 a month. So if I need another 12 meetings, I need to hire another person, or and you're just compounding a problem. Whereas if you pause and you really train people on really good fundamentals, I think most SDR teams can easily get to like booking double figures and perhaps beyond that.
Yeah, and I guess that links to sort of how they're motivated and incentivized as well, because if they're driven just for that, obviously everyone wants the meeting, the outcome, the bank qualified meeting, all those sort of things, but there's so many steps before that you're missing out on so much of the early funnel pipeline that needs nurturing, especially in today's world with AI and all the research you can do. Like you said, most people aren't at that buying stage yet, are they? So how do you, if you're a sales leader looking to incentivize and motivate a team, what are the things you'd look out for doing that?
Yeah, so if you incentivize them on like, firstly, I always try and incentivize them on like qualified attended meetings. So that means they're going to take care to book in the meetings at the right time. So then in order to book people in at the right time, you have to understand proper qualification and conversations with your ICP. And then the other thing you need to really train them on is just understanding their own metric. So if you give someone a list on day one, 100 dials, 10 conversations, 1 meeting, so everyone's heard that if you have any background in cold calling. But your goal is to slowly reduce the number of dials to those meetings, because if you're doing proper tracking, more and more of your meetings will come out of people you've already spoken to. And just like helping them move the mindset and motivate them towards thinking about like me in 3 weeks, me in 3 months wants to come in and have it easier, because me today has created follow-up and stuck with conversations rather than just like not interested, thanks. And just motivate them to create their own like compounding effect, compounding effort. People talk about like compound interest. It's kind of the same thing. Compound interest in speaking with us.
Every touch point is compounding. The LinkedIn message, the connection, the email, the call a few weeks ago. It's all building up to eventually getting that meeting out of it. Right?
Exactly. And like to really motivate that for like the SDRs, it's hard to say, cool, you're behind target this month, but you're still doing the right thing. So I can see how many follow-ups you've created. I can see your engaging with people. So you in 6 months is going to be really good, when there's like another person in the team who's just like smashing it. That's why I go back to like just help them really understand the metrics and their conversions, because the person who's smashing it isn't smashing it because they just got lucky that month or they did really well this month. They're doing it because of they've done all that stuff in the last few months and last few weeks. So I always try and just help people get really good bearing on their own metrics, because that means that then they can also like motivate themselves and understand they're moving in the right direction. Because I have had this 3 or 4 times in the last quarter, because of December's really busy, people find it harder to get people back on the phone, and then come back in January, they think they can there's more people to follow up with and stuff. But if you know your dial to connect rate, if it's say it's 100 to 1 for easy maths, well I've made 198 dials and I haven't booked a meeting. Cool. Well, if you're listening back to them and your process is the same, you're like right round the corner from probably 2 meetings. You just got to keep that.
Yeah, it's knowing the process, and then with that, also it's quite a demotivating if you're doing that and you're not getting the results. But if you know you're doing all the right steps It's a proven system. You know you're eventually going to get there. And it's the same when you're selling, isn't it? Obviously, the outcome is the deal, but it's all the little steps that build up to that that's important, and those smaller wins that you need to recognize, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to do that, and I think it's where like SDRs and BDR teams now find it hard. It's like when they're remote and stuff, it's harder to get that learning and that understanding and motivate each other. So I think it's become even more important that leadership need time and space back to give real coaching and real attention, so that the SDRs who are remote like learn all those metrics so they can start to motivate and understand their own process even more so than before.
Yeah, that's a great point. How's that changing? Because obviously, when me and you started this years ago, you'd be in the office, and I know a lot of companies still do that. You'd have a team of SDRs, you'd have them all on the phones. It was, and the atmosphere, the sales environment you're in. But now, obviously, it's a bit more of a hybrid approach, and people working remote. How do you find the right people that are suitable for that culture?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's the easy answer. It's hard. I think it's always gone back to, and like it was the same maybe when we were hiring people into an office. Like, people know that like the best SDRs are the ones who are hungry, driven, self-motivating. They probably want to earn good money. Otherwise, why be in sales? I always remind people. And like they didn't mind some healthy competition, probably, like all of those sorts of things. But like I think the thing that has changed now, if you have to hire them remote, I'd just really qualify on like ability or willingness to ask for help. Like is so much more important. Like before, I always wanted to hire for people who could do that. But if they had all the other attributes, I knew they're going to be sat next to me, so I'll help them anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like with that little bit more separation, I probably dial like the willingness to ask for help and the ability to take feedback quickly. I'd probably dial them up slightly higher. But again, all the attributes are probably the same.
Yeah, rather than spending a couple of days, really struggling or needing to adjust a message, they reach out. If something's not working, how do we fix it, type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like that willingness to make mistakes, growth mindset, all those sorts of things. Maybe like cliches at times, but you want someone who isn't worried about looking stupid by asking for help. Even if it's like a marketing manager at one of the companies we work with, asked, like, I spread a spreadsheet, and they asked me to like make the column sizes wider. I was like, in my mind, I was like, you could just do that. But actually, I hadn't shared access the right way or whatever, so they could see it, but they couldn't edit it. But like just that willingness to ask what is probably quite like such a minor thing, and yeah, you might look silly, but actually I was in the wrong. And it's just like minor like examples of that. Obviously, that was a marketing manager, but for SDRs, they need to be willing to ask, no matter how stupid the question is.
Yeah. And do you think the roles change slightly then, in terms of, obviously, to be a good SDR, you've got to be good on the phone, but you need to understand now data and automation and all the stuff you were talking around earlier around the early pipeline. Do you think that's changed, or is it fundamentally you just got to be really good on the phone?
I think it's probably a little bit of preference on that. I think if you want to progress into a management of any kind, if you want to progress to like RevOps, maybe you want to progress to like enterprise focus, an understanding of all of that is really helpful, because you're going to be responsible for tooling, reporting, multi-thread. You're going to have that good grip on everything. But if you're an SDR who wants to become a good AE and you just want to earn loads of money, you can probably just be good at, understanding ICP, messaging, objection handling, all these things. But you can just be good at like the sales side of it. You don't need to necessarily know. It helps just with processes because you can sort things out and crack on faster.
Yeah.
But I think like where people say it's changed loads, it's maybe because like they haven't yet crossed that bridge to having like maybe a good RevOps or an SDR leader who's capable of it. So I think maybe it's a bit of a yes and no answer.
So it depends on your future career progression.
Yeah, I think so. And like makeup of the rest of the team as well.
Yeah. It's similar to sales, isn't it? If you're really good at sales and close, there's very few salespeople that are good at all of it.
Yeah.
Like you're either good at closing or prospecting or proposals or relationship. You're usually good at one or two of them, but not everything. So I guess it's similar. you could be a really good data person, really good on LinkedIn and crafting good emails, but then at the same time you have somebody that's just really good at the phone and they just need the right data and they're going to go and book you 5-10 meetings.
And that's like the exact direction we've moved our team in. So like all three of us were all from SDR agency backgrounds. So I know we can all cold call, we can all book meetings, but one of us has much better skills around automations, APIs, AI tools and stuff like that. One of us is like the best cold caller, and then I can do a bit of both of those. I'm probably still like one of our better cold callers, but I'm also like operationally in the strategy and stuff, can put it all together. We actually just said, well, let's all stop trying to all cold call and all prospect. And so now one of the other guys is kind of like AI automation. People call him probably a go-to-market engineer. I prefer to call him like our AI and tech expert because he's also really good at AE. But he just builds all of that, has that running in the background, and feeds our other guy who's amazing at cold calling. Who's also good at AE. And it just works so much better. So
rather than getting everybody to do everything. I can relate to that massively with some of our clients. They just want the right data with the right process behind them and just free their time up so they can actually get on the phone and close deals and do business, right? So what do you think is the biggest mistake people make then? Because obviously you built Stacky to help with this in terms of evaluating the tools. What's the biggest mistake people are making when hiring and building an SDR team?
Yeah, we've kind of touched on like a few of them, but the main one I think, or the main probably two. First one is actually the CRM setup. It's just not like set up or designed to favor prospecting. It's like it was designed, it's great for customer management and it's great for managing once there is an opportunity and the deals and the customers. But like everything that happens before that, it's just not suited to like me consistently working through my list, trying to connect, have a conversation, put notes in, create follow-ups. So they just have so what that means, when they don't have that system, it means that the SDRs and BDRs are typically like finding data, finding accounts, chucking this in the CRM, giving it a blast, forget about it in a few days, and they go and find more accounts. So you're just building a bigger mess. And that's when people start to say, oh, it doesn't work or it doesn't scale. It's like, well, you're just building on bad foundations. And then the other mistake is just trying to give, and like I think it actually comes from like with the best intentions, but companies trying to give SDRs really clever tools. They're trying to give them Clay was one for a while. I think luckily people realised, okay, that doesn't go in the hands of the SDRs. But they try and give them a LinkedIn automation tool. They try and give them a scraper. They try and give them virtual sales rooms. They then give them a parallel dialer. And all of these tools are like really smart and they're really helpful if used in the right way and if everyone understands the foundation. But actually what's happening is you're skipping all of that coaching and training and you're giving them tools that do something clever. Okay, but what about like speaking to 10 prospects every single day? Where's that gone? So people are focusing on the wrong metrics then as well. And so like all of that, both of those things create the wrong metrics and activity monitoring. And the guys at Titan X and people like Jerry Hill do a great job of this. I know we both know Jerry. One of the main things you should just be focusing on is like how many conversations a day or an hour are your SDRs having? That's like your North Star. And so many people just aren't measuring that.
And if they're spending hours each day building out workflows and trying to log into different platforms, it's just they're wasting their time, aren't they?
Exactly. And then the other thing, this is what Elijah Woke, who's a great SDR agency in North America, well actually in Canada, said the other day, he was like, don't give drug users drugs and then tell them to be responsible with it. And that's kind of what a lot of like this sales tech space, this like sales industrial complex has created. They do all these great tools, SDRs. Now you better book loads of meetings and not break the email domain, not burn your LinkedIn profile, and not like tank our dial to connect rates as well. Well, that's exactly what's going to happen because you've given them too much. There's all these like weird and wonderful things they can do. So they just keep testing things. But at no point is anyone giving any one thing enough time and focus to build the compound effect of pipeline.
I find that, what's your thoughts on that in terms of data as well? Because I've found that a lot of the times when I was in sales, it would always be, we're buying new data, intent data. We partnered with Info, and it was the same scenario where you would either give in access to the reps to build out their own data, or just bombarding them with too much. And actually, you're right, you probably got most of it in your CRM anyway, or the tools you have, but you're not using it, right? So
that goes back to just like when I talk about like that CRM set up properly, everything I always try and have the teams I work with go back to like it's a clean list, and giving too much data and then buying more data and buying more data, it's just become, you build up this illusion for the SDR or BDR that what happens on this call doesn't really matter that much because I've got another 1,000 contacts to get through. And it's that like get through attitude that starts to just chip away at any of like the quality in their conversations, because like, they have this illusion that there's a massive ocean out there. I'll just go and find it somewhere else, but you can't boil the ocean.
Yeah. And I get that boils down to the ICP as well, right? So obviously, if you're targeting booking meetings and you just booking meetings but with the wrong personas, you're sort of wasting everyone's time. So who needs to drive that discipline within the organization in terms of the ICP and who the SDR should be targeting?
Yeah. That's got to go down to leadership, like the leadership team, and then that has to trickle down and be managed by the managers. The SDRs shouldn't be in charge of who they think the ICP is. They can give feedback on all of their calls and all of like everything that's happening. If they're getting referred to other people, if messaging isn't landing, they can adjust their own call scripts. But in terms of like who, the types of job titles and stuff like that, and the ICP that they are adding to their list, that should be defined by leadership.
Yeah, I find it unbelievable that so many companies don't know that, like really, even though with all these tools and all the information at our fingertips, they don't actually know who their ICP is. They don't really know who they should be targeting. Back to sort of like the tech stack thing and why you founded Stacky then. Obviously, what are the main reasons for that? What were the pain points you saw in the market to want to build Stacky, and what exactly did it do?
Yeah, like all of the frustrations and all of the errors and the overlap, the tech sprawl, the bloat, the confusion, this idea that outbound is getting harder. All of that fed into why we built Stacky, and a kind of like alongside all of those, which is like actually happening to your SDRs and your AEs. There's also then like, I understand it, I was in the same boat. Like the leadership have almost like this FOMO kind of like experience happening because everyone on LinkedIn, if you believe it, indexing their pipeline every month just because they've used this tool or that tool. So everyone feels like they're missing out on things. And like it happens as well because there's then AI, there's pressure at the board for like AI. What are we doing with AI? What are we doing with AI? So then that gets pushed down. So then the leaders who kind of know maybe the SDRs and AEs are just distracted and it's all a bit of a mess. They're like, oh, well, if we go and get this AI tool, it will help with this. And I've released some of the pressure that's coming down the chain. And I've given the guys a shiny new tool. And so we just saw that happening time and time again. And I think places like G2, Gartner, maybe Forrester, like a lot of the review sites and places people can go for like sales tech advice, they resell your intent data. And then they are also like the biggest players with the biggest marketing budgets are able to just buy the top spots. So people were going to community. I think some of the best advice I see on sales tech is actually in communities that we're in. And so we wanted to help people like understand how all these tools should fit together, where they've got overlap, so that we can help them simplify, which then helps to remove some of the bloat, the distraction. And we just spent probably like the first 3 years of our business just building like really credible, brand. Like people now, when they come to us, they know they're going to get like agnostic, neutral, honest advice rather than us pushing. None of our partners pay for the privilege. They just naturally, we get revenue shares on all of them, but we partner with like 10 or 12 companies in almost every category. And we'll make the recommendations based on that team's target market, CRM, channels they want to work on, because we spent 12 years building SDR teams and AE teams.
And ironically, some of those companies you're talking around there, they have the best SDR teams, the best sales teams, the best data. They're very well funded, so they have a very good sales outbound themselves, don't they? So and they're selling into marketing the sales professionals that are open to new ideas and technologies. So it's sort of a self-fulfilling thing, really. You got to keep up with the Joneses and get the best tool and the best platform, you know.
Exactly it. And I think like that whole like issue or perception just compounds and compounds. Um, because I think like companies like SalesLoft and Outreach, the guys at Nooks doing a good job of this. Probably some others, Cognizant as well. Maybe they were all the first, like some of the, maybe like 5 years ago, but the companies that started like like created almost like sales influencers and stuff on LinkedIn by just pushing so much out there. So it became this, oh yeah, we should do that, we should do that, we should do that. Kind of like then they blew up and just created this environment where everybody thinks you need 10 different tools, and
Yeah.
actually you need like probably 3, 4, and then just consistent effort and like good tracking, good coaching.
So if you were to invest in 3 or 4 tools, what would they be then? Not necessarily names of the tools, but what
Yeah.
sort of areas would you
Yeah,
recommend?
so for me, it would 100% be like if I was starting from scratch, assuming we've already got the CRM covered, it would be most likely a waterfall data enrichment tool, or it might be like the regionally best one. Then it would be a dialer, a good phone system that owns more of its own infrastructure, and then third would be some sort of like enablement and coaching type platform, like your conversation intelligence tools, or tools like Second Body or Hyperbound for like training, because there's maybe a little bit of bias in there because my background's always been cold calling.
Yeah,
I see it time and time again. Like if you can get the SDR teams better on the phone first before you give them anything else, they're
yeah.
going to perform better. Whereas if you give them the other stuff first and then try and get them to call, they're just always going to be reluctant.
Yeah, I guess there's like a few levers you can pull, isn't there, in terms of like the data, making sure that's right, the connection, right, making sure you get
Yep,
through to them. And then when you do get through, making sure the SDR's trained and ready to go and make the most of that opportunity,
exactly.
because it's so valuable. Now, if you actually get through and you get something on the phone, you've got to be able to deliver and get to the point quickly.
Yeah, like you'll know this. Like with the agency you're building, is like the ability, like to understand the structure of a call, really trumps your understanding of the product. If the outcome you're looking for is like finding opportunities or booking meetings.
Yeah, yeah,
Because cool, if I like the perfect example was when we used to like, we prospected IT a lot. So I worked on like a lot of virtualization campaigns. There's just like loads and loads of acronyms and stuff, and I still know that a super node or a node is something inside either a virtual box or a SAN or a flash or something. Never came up. Never needed that.
never need to know
But
that.
it's just not relevant. But the ability to like structure a call got me appointments, and it's why our SDR teams outperformed big global companies and their internal SDR teams who had more product training.
With that process, then obviously, you've been refining that over the years. Are you using AI now to help with that sort of things? Yeah, obviously, now we can transcribe calls, record calls, have
Yeah.
AI analyze these sort of things, and compare different markets and different messaging. How important is AI today?
Yeah, and I think you're pointing to something there as well, where like I think one of the best places for AI is in coaching and enablement. Not that it necessarily does it for your team, and manager, cool, I don't have to worry about it anymore. AI is telling them how to be good at stuff. No, but and it's why I would go data dialer and then an enablement tool, probably like one of these conversational intelligence or sort of AI training platforms. So all my calls would feed straight into it, train really good personas, and then my team could just like practice with it every morning before they start calling real prospects. And I'd obviously coach and stuff as well, and that's where AI I think can help with that efficiency. Like if they can get, like, I can guarantee that they've had 5 or 10 conversations in the morning before they even start picking up the phone.
Yeah,
Whereas a few years ago, I'd have to hope they make 100 dials and they start connecting to people before they start having the conversation. So I think those are like some really good layers of AI. You can use AI to like scrape your entire website and come up with cool scripts and stuff like that, which is okay. But again, I'd always just have like human oversight to be like, cool, put it into this structure, and actually don't give the SDR that access to the AI that's going to give them like 12 different versions of a script. You need them to like nail one, get really good at like pitching in one way and then use their ability to ask questions to navigate to other topics and stuff. If you give them 12 scripts because AI said this persona would love this persona will love this persona will love this, they're just going to be more and more distracted and confused and stressed out.
Yeah. So great for the research, great for sort of analysing the cool script things, but that human element needs to come in at some point to sort of cut through all the noise as such.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to give them direction at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. And how do you see this going in the next 3 years then? Because obviously it's accelerating quite a lot. I'm the same. You look on LinkedIn, a lot around AI and the next greatest tool and workflow and things. And obviously, we're still booking meetings the traditional way on LinkedIn. But all the different channels I used to do 5-10 years ago, it still worked. But you can get a bit distracted by all this. But where do you see it all going? Do you think it's the traditional ways are still going to work in 3-5 years time?
Yeah, there might be danger one day that AI can make a good cold call and replace that aspect of it. But I do think, and this is where, like I described earlier, where the 3 people in our team, we've adjusted actually who does what based on their skill set. But we're seeing already, like, the guy who's really good at AI understands tech and has the patience to sit and build like something that's going to monitor for signals and scrape lists and feed it to the cold caller. Well, the cold caller now basically books 2 or 3 meetings every single morning. Pretty much says, "Cool, I don't care what you do for the rest of the day."
Yeah, good job.
I think AI is going to get better and better and be able to do targeting in the sense of like finding the right targets and building the lists, targeting list building, perhaps message and campaign ideation, and then you can have one guy doing that to like a really high degree and then feeding 5 or 6 SDRs, and then those 5 or 6 SDRs, because they've got more capacity and they can each be booking more meetings, they can feed even more AEs. And I kind of think that's the direction I am taking the teams I work with in. One customer, they had two SDRs and their average, like last year maybe the year before, 12 meetings each a month. We adjusted it. Now their average is 5. One just did 27. Nice. And so actually, I've said that, well, instead of hiring more SDRs, you don't need to do that because they've just doubled. You're going to need to hire more AEs.
Yeah.
Which is a much better net win for how they want to build that team.
Yeah. So the better we can optimize AI, better we can automate and get that process right, the more efficient the SDRs are going to be and the more successful the team are going to be overall.
Because again, like going back, like it means now the SDRs, and I think anyone who's like a good SDR team builder, probably good SDR coach, maybe like cold calling coach, they're going to get more and more work, because if you get good go-to-market engineer type role, taking care of all of that, will just feed really good SDRs, and those SDRs, they just need to know call structure, follow up, and like consistency.
I get, for somebody that's really good at that, and that's where their career wants to, that's the dream, isn't it? From when we were starting, you got a spreadsheet and a CRM with the wrong data, and you're just literally calling into the abyss. To join a company now that has the right tech stack, that has AI, that has the data built, and you're just doing what you're good at and getting on the phone must be, refreshing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fun. Like the SDRs we see hitting, an SDR booking over 20 meetings a month. Well, that's their job. They like when they start to get to like 30s, just they love it, and like they don't want, and it proves what we've been trying to build with Stacky and everything we've spoken about here is like they don't have the distractions because someone else is building lists, feeding it to them, doing like monitoring for them, so they can just have conversations, make good notes, follow up.
Yeah.
And they just know they're getting more and more commission every month.
So what are the main attributes then for somebody like that? I guess it is it somebody that's just money motivated that wants to book meetings at the end of the day?
Yeah, like book meetings, or like book good opportunities. These days you have to preface that because so many people sell 50-minute meetings as good. Someone who's, I guess, money motivated, wants to do well, enjoys that like slight like competition of like how many can I book, how many opportunities can I find, how many conversations can I have. Like I think they're going to be like continue to probably be they used to be like some of the top performers, but I think they're going to just do really, really well now. And I think like the gap between top performers and the bottom is going to be even bigger, which means either the entry level or the standard for entry is going to be higher, or they're just people going to have to really invest in like the first 3 months and have like a serious process and KPIs to be like, can this person get to the rest of the field?
I'll also say, do you find within, especially like enterprise, like the ability to be able to really qualify a meeting and understand, especially in tech, right? Like it's not just booking a meeting numbers game. Like you're getting on the phone, like the SDR's role is not just to book that meeting, but to qualify it and get it to a point where it's ready to go. That's going to become the skill, in my view.
And I think like when I say book meetings and I talk about book meetings, I think like sometimes people say, oh, just want like we're not just wanting booked meetings. When I say book meeting, I mean like qualified. It's an hour long. It's in the diary. There's a who it is, why it's there, what's potentially being solved, and it could be something of interest in the next 6 months. And there's like a reason for it. But again, it's probably one of like that's like the fundamental stuff that we were talking about earlier. Like I think some people genuinely think someone that says yes, that's their job done. I've booked a meeting. They said they were interested. Did they understand the whole thing? But I think like because I spent so long at an SDR agency where like your deliverable is that meeting, that was just drilled into me so much and to my team so much that it's just one of the fundamentals that I think other companies lost when they realised you could build all these sequences and go crazy.
Yeah. Focus on the wrong things. And I guess, on that as well then, obviously, you've worked on, both sides, but at what point would you either outsource this because you go, right, we need somebody to manage the tools, we need good callers, we need to get going fast, we need to go to market quick. At what point do you outsource versus building all this in-house?
Yeah, I think like time obviously plays a factor in how quickly you need pipeline and results. Even if like I think when people have, they think they've got like plenty of time to make it work, I always think like actually you should probably outsource some of it straight away, because if you are, otherwise you're paying other people to work it out internally and like your SDRs to work it out, whereas actually an agency has everything set up, everything good to go, they're ready, they can start delivering fairly quickly. And most good agencies will help you map that into your own process internally so that eventually they can ramp down and you can as you ramp up your own team. Or like if you're building your own teams, you get them focused on like the areas that return the most, the verticals, the ICP that works the best for you and gives you the best returns, and you can try and scale outside of that yourself, but that's a calculated risk. So you could also stick with an outsource agency to do that. I think it works in lots of different ways, but most of the time I'd actually say to people, rather than just build from scratch at a standing start, you're not going to get a return on the SDRs for a while. And there's so much risk involved.
By the time you built the tool stack, hired the right people, train them up, you're going to be months into the project, right?
Exactly. And I think people try to hire like too junior because it's an experiment. It's kind of like, I think the mindset that a lot of companies have. So they want to, SDRs, we'll give them 30K and we'll train them and they'll start to give us meetings. Like you should actually hire like someone with good experience building outbound SDRs and AEs. If they're just a good SDR manager, I even not sure that's enough anymore. I think you need like a head of sales or more senior who believes in SDRs and AE structures. That should be your first hire to then build an internal function. Because otherwise, the SDRs, the graduate SDRs that you worked out, or that you hired, aren't going to work it out without a manager who knows how to manage SDR teams.
Yeah, and you also need to have validated some of the messaging, the approach, like all that good stuff you need to do. Mm-hmm. It takes a while to do that, right? Whereas an agency would have that ready. They know what works, they know which data to use, they know which tools to use, so it's a bit quicker. So just to, I'm very cautious on time, James, but just to wrap things up then. So if you were starting, you had 90 days to build out like an SDR function, what are the 3 or 4 things you would do to get that in place?
Yeah, make sure the CRM would support like a clear list view for my team whilst they work, and would track all of their notes and all the follow-ups, and has statuses to reflect meeting, follow-up, email, more follow-up, referral, wrong contacts. Make sure someone in my leadership team or myself had like a clear understanding of call structure, the lists, the ICPs, where we're going to get them from, so that I get a data tool to then build those lists and get those in. And then I would make sure I also have like hiring and stuff like that, assuming we've got a recruiter or someone to do that. I'd make sure like I had an enablement tool and clear reporting on dials, connections, stations, outcomes, and meetings. So if you can measure all of those and you know the right messaging and you have made sure you've got time in your calendar to do lots of coaching every single day, you're off to a better start than most.
Yeah. That's the foundations before you go, and while you're hiring really good SDRs there, that's the foundations for success, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, amazing, mate. And then, so if people needed your help in terms of, well, both on, helping build this out or advising on that, where can they find you? And then also on the Stacky side of things, where can they find you and get your help?
The best place to get in contact or find me, just LinkedIn's great, or anyone's got a good enrichment tool. My number is very easily available. It's on every single platform, I'm sure. So feel free to cold call me. But yeah, stacky.io or build with Stacky on any socials. You'll find us.
Yeah, and I think honestly, as founder of the founder, what you built is amazing. Like it's not easy to break out of the corporate world to do what you've done, and to also build a platform, and to something like Stacky is such a useful tool that people need to start using, right? Because I've been there. I've been a leader where you're getting pressure to build all these tools and hire people, and there's a lot going on, and very quickly you can make a right mess of it. So I think it's really important to step back and review what tools you need. So well done with building that.
Thanks, man.
Cool. Thanks, James. Really
great talking to you, Tom. And I love everything you're building over there. So